The stars looked different from the bridge of the UE, Oz horizon. Captain Jake Morrison had been staring at them for months, but today they seemed brighter somehow. Today was the day they had all been waiting for. "Captain, we have a contact," called out Lieutenant Amy Phillips from her station. Her voice was shaking with excitement. "It's big, sir." "Really big." Jake walked over to the main screen and watched as the massive ship came into view. It was unlike anything humans had ever built. The vessel was made of what looked like crystal, smooth and flowing like it had been grown rather than built. Beautiful colored lights danced along its surface. "How big is it?" Jake asked. "About 3 times the size of our ship, sir," replied Lieutenant Commander Ryan Blake from the tactical station. "But I'm not reading any weapons." Jake nodded. This was it. After decades of searching the galaxy, humanity had finally found what they were looking for. They were not alone. "Amy, try to contact them," Jake ordered. "Use the standard first contact protocols." Amy worked at her console for several minutes. "Sir, they're responding. They're sending some kind of translation program." "Put it through." "To the computer. Let's see if we can talk to them." The translation process took nearly 2 hours. Jake and his crew waited patiently, drinking coffee and trying to stay calm. Dr. Lisa Carter, the ship's science officer, kept checking her instruments. "Captain," she said, "their technology is incredible. I've never seen anything like it." Finally, the main screen flickered to life. A tall, elegant creature appeared on the display. It had smooth, pale skin that seemed to change colors as it moved. Its eyes were large and kind, and when it spoke, the words came out in perfect English. "Greetings, beings of the vessel," the creature said with a warm smile. "I am Ambassador Veltar of the Catherian Collective. We come in peace to welcome you to the galactic community." Jake stepped forward, his heart pounding. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Horizon. We're honored to meet you, Ambassador." The conversation that followed was amazing. Ambassador Veltar spoke of trade between worlds, sharing knowledge, and learning about each other's cultures. He told them about the Galactic Council, a group of over 300 different species that work together to keep peace in the galaxy. "There are so many worlds out there," Veltar said, his skin shifting to pleasant blue and green colors. "So many different kinds of life. Your people would love to see them." "We would be honored to join your community," Jake replied. "We've been hoping for this day for so long." They talked for nearly an hour. Veltar showed them pictures of beautiful alien cities, strange and wonderful creatures, and technologies that seemed like magic. The crew of the Horizon listened in amazement. "Your species shows great promise," Veltar said finally. "We would be happy to help you join the Galactic Council. But first, there is one small thing we need to know. What do you call yourselves?" Jake smiled. "We call ourselves humans. We come from a planet called Earth." The moment those words left his mouth, everything changed. Veltar's skin turned bright red, then deep black. His eyes went wide with what could only be terror. "Did you say humans?" Veltar whispered, backing away from the screen. "Yes, that's right," Jake replied, confused. "Is something wrong?" Veltar's image flickered and disappeared. The screen went black. "Sir," Amy called out, "they're moving away from us. Fast." Jake watched through the viewport as the beautiful crystal ship turned and accelerated away at incredible speed. Within minutes, it was gone, leaving only empty space and very confused humans. "What just happened?" asked Dr. Carter. Before anyone could answer, Amy's console started beeping rapidly. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission. It's being broadcast on all frequencies. Put it through." The message was short and terrifying. "Emergency Council alert. The humans have returned. All species advised to evacuate border sectors immediately. Repeat. The humans have returned. This is not a drill. The bridge fell silent. Jake stared at the empty space where the Catherian ship had been. Returned? Ryan asked. What do they mean, returned? I don't know, Jake replied. But it sounds like they know who we are. Over the next few hours, the communications array picked up hundreds of messages. All of them were about humans. The crew worked together to translate what they could, and what they found was disturbing. Captain, Dr. Carter said, her face pale, according to these messages, humans are the most feared species in the galaxy. They're calling us the most dangerous warriors who ever lived. That's impossible, Jake said. We've never been to space before. How can they know about us? I don't know, sir. But listen to this. Dr. Carter activated a recording she had translated. This is from something called the Zephyrian War Archives. It says humans destroyed entire fleets with just a few ships. It says we're unstoppable in battle. But we're not warriors, Amy protested. We're explorers. We came here to make friends. Try. Telling them that, Ryan said, pointing at his tactical display. We've got company. Jake looked at the screen and felt his stomach drop. Ships were appearing all around them. Dozens of them, from many different species. They were all keeping their distance, but their weapons were clearly visible. Incoming. Transmission, Amy announced. The face that appeared on screen was clearly alien, with 4 eyes and skin like rough leather. When it spoke, its voice was filled with fear and respect. Human vessel. This is Fleet Admiral Ziegtoth of the Galactic Defense Force. We are prepared to discuss terms for your withdrawal from this sector. Jake straightened his uniform and stepped forward. Admiral, I think there's been a mistake. We're not here to fight anyone. We're explorers from Earth. We come in peace. The Admiral's 4 eyes widened. You're not here to reclaim your empire? Empire? We don't have an empire. We just want to explore the galaxy and make friends. For a long moment, the Admiral said nothing. Then his expression changed to something. That might have been hope. You really don't know, do you? He said quietly. Know what? Jake asked. Human vessel, I think we need to talk. But first, let me ask you something. In all your history, have you ever heard of the Great Human Empire? The Terran Colonial Authority? The Death World Warriors? Jake shook his head. No, sir. None of those names mean anything to us. The Admiral leaned back in his chair. Then we have a very big problem. Or maybe, just maybe, we have a very big opportunity. The transmission ended, leaving the crew of the Horizon staring at each other in confusion. Captain, Dr. Carter said slowly, what if we're not the first humans they've met? Jake looked out at the fleet of alien ships surrounding them. Somewhere out there was the answer to why the galaxy feared humanity. And somehow, he had the feeling that finding that answer was going to change everything. Amy, send a message to Earth, he ordered. Tell them we've made contact with alien life. And tell them we might have a problem. As Amy worked at her console, Jake continued to stare at the alien fleet. The stars that had looked so welcoming. That morning now seemed cold and distant. Humanity had reached for the stars, hoping to find friends among them. Instead, they had found a galaxy that already knew their name and feared it. 3 days passed before the alien fleet finally agreed to talk. Captain Jake Morrison had spent those days watching 47 ships from 12 different species circle his vessel like sharks. They stayed exactly 50,000 kilometers. Away, close enough to watch, but far enough to run if needed. Dr. Lisa Carter had not slept much during those 3 days. She worked day and night at her computer, trying to understand the flood of messages that kept coming from across the galaxy. Every species seemed to be talking about humans. Captain, you need to see this, she said, her voice tired but excited. I've been reading their history books. The stories they tell about us. Jake walked over to her station. The main screen showed pages of alien text with English translations next to them. The words made his blood run cold. This is from the Zephyrian Empire, Dr. Carter explained. It's about 12,000 years old. They describe a species called humans, who are the most feared warriors in the galaxy. The text talked about battles where humans fought entire fleets with just a few ships. It described human soldiers who could survive in space without protection. It said humans never gave up, never surrendered, and never showed mercy to their enemies. Here's another one, Dr. Carter continued, from the Altarian Federation. 8,000 years old. They call humans the Death World Warriors. They say, we come from a planet so dangerous that war is just a game to us. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Blake looked up from his own station. Captain, none of this makes sense. 12,000 years ago, humans were just starting to grow crops. We didn't even know how to make metal tools yet. That's what I thought too, Dr. Carter said. But then I found these. The screen changed to show pictures that made everyone stop breathing. They were clearly very old alien artwork, but the figures in them were human. Humans wearing armor and carrying weapons that looked far more advanced than anything Earth had ever made. They stood over the bodies of dead aliens, looking victorious and terrible. There are hundreds of these pictures, Dr. Carter said quietly. Every species has them. They all show humans winning battles, destroying cities, conquering worlds. According to these records, humans ruled a quarter of the galaxy. But how is that possible? Asked Lieutenant Amy Phillips. We know our own history. We've never been to space before last century. I have an idea, Dr. Carter said slowly. What if these humans aren't from our past? What if they're from our future? The bridge went quiet. Everyone stared at her. Time travel, Ryan whispered. Think about it, Dr. Carter said. The dates don't match our history, but the technology in these pictures is incredible. What if humans from our future somehow traveled back in time? What if they built an empire in the past, then disappeared? Before anyone could respond, the communication system beeped. A new face appeared on the screen. It was clearly alien, with blue skin and 6 arms, but its expression was one of pure terror. Human vessel, the alien said. This is Fleet Admiral Zeektoth. We have been discussing your situation with the Galactic Council. We are prepared to negotiate terms for your peaceful withdrawal from this sector. Jake stepped forward. Admiral, we keep telling you, we're not here to fight. We're explorers. We want to join your galactic community. The Admiral's eyes widened. You're not here to reclaim your empire? What empire? We don't have an empire. For a moment, the Admiral looked confused. Then something like hope appeared in his eyes. You truly don't know about the great human empire? We've never heard of it, Jake replied honestly. The Admiral was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke again, his voice softer. Human Captain, I think we need to meet in person. But first, let me show you something. The screen changed to show a map of the galaxy. Red dots were scattered across it, hundreds of them. Each dot had a name written next to it in English. New Earth, Armstrong Station, Humanity's Rest, Deathworld Alpha, and many others. These are the worlds that humans once controlled, the Admiral explained. Over 4,000 star systems. They were abandoned exactly 4,000 years ago, but the ruins are still there. Dr. Carter stared at the map. Those names. There. Using language patterns that we won't develop for another 100 years. The ruins still broadcast warnings, the Admiral continued. Would you like to hear one? Jake nodded, though he wasn't sure he wanted to. A voice filled the bridge, speaking clear English. This is Automated Defense Platform 7 of the Terran Colonial Authority. By order of General Patricia Wells, This system is under human protection. Any ship that comes within 1 light year without permission will be destroyed. This message will repeat every 30 seconds for the next 10,000 years. The voice was human, but the technology behind it was beyond anything Earth had ever created. There are thousands of these messages, the Admiral said. Your people built the largest empire in galactic history, then vanished overnight. The question is, why have you returned? Jake looked at his crew, then back at the Admiral. We haven't returned. We've arrived. I think what you're seeing is evidence of our future, not our past. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Are you saying that your species is destined to become the most feared warriors in the galaxy? I'm saying we need to figure out how to prevent that from happening. The Admiral's expression changed. For the first time, he looked interested rather than afraid. You want to change your destiny? We want to understand it first, Jake replied. Would you be willing to show us these ruins? To help us learn what happened? The Admiral considered this. It would be dangerous. The ruins are protected by automated defenses that are still active after 4,000 years. Many ships have been destroyed trying to explore them. We're willing to take that risk, Jake said. We need to know the truth. Very well, the Admiral said finally. But we will escort you, and you will follow our lead exactly. The humans who built these defenses were very, very good at killing things. After the transmission ended, the crew of the Horizon sat in stunned silence. Captain, Doctor, Carter said quietly, what if we can't change what happens? What if we're destined to become these warrior humans? Jake looked out at the alien fleet, still maintaining their careful distance. Then we'll have to prove that destiny wrong. We'll have to show them that humans can be more than warriors. And if we can't? Ryan asked. Jake didn't answer immediately. He thought about the pictures they had seen, the conquered worlds, the fear in the Admiral's eyes. Then we'll have to live with the consequences. But I refuse to believe that war is the only path for humanity. The next day, the combined fleet set course for the nearest human ruin. It was a journey that would take them 5 days. 5 days. To reach a world that humans had apparently once called home. A world that might hold the answers to questions they were afraid to ask. As they traveled through hyperspace, Jake couldn't stop thinking about the voice in the recording. General Patricia Wells, a name that meant nothing to him, but apparently meant everything to the galaxy. Somewhere out there, in humanity's future, a woman would give orders that would echo across thousands of years. The question was, would Jake and his crew be able to change that future, or were they destined to become the very monsters the galaxy feared? Only time would tell. The Galactic Council building was the most amazing thing Captain Jake Morrison had ever seen. It was a massive structure floating in space, big enough to hold a small city. Ships from hundreds of different worlds came and went like busy insects. Around a hive. Jake walked through the halls with Dr. Lisa Carter and Ambassador Helen Murphy, who had been sent from Earth to handle the diplomatic side of things. The hallways were huge, designed to accommodate beings of all shapes and sizes. Some aliens were as small as mice, while others were as big as elephants. But today, something was different. The halls were mostly empty, and the few aliens they did see quickly moved away when they spotted the humans. Jake felt like he was carrying some kind of disease. They finally reached the main council chamber, a vast room with seats arranged in circles that went up and up like a giant stadium. The seats were designed for every kind of alien imaginable, but most of them were empty today. Those that were occupied were as far away as possible from the small section marked for humans. The 3 humans sat in chairs that were clearly made from much larger beings. Jake felt small and out of place. Supreme Chancellor Dexara called the meeting to order. She was a tall, thin creature that looked like a cross between a praying mantis and a tree. When she spoke, her words were translated into dozens of languages at once. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," she began, "we are here to discuss the return of the humans." She said the word humans like it was something dangerous that might explode. Representative from the vegan consortium stood up. It looked like a living crystal, sparkling in the light. "Supreme Chancellor, our records clearly show that humans were responsible for the Great Purge, the Siege of Altair, and the complete destruction of the Zendri Empire. How can we possibly trust them?" Ambassador Murphy stood up. Her voice carried clearly across the huge chamber. "With respect, we have no knowledge of these events. Our species has only recently learned to travel between stars. We come in peace, seeking friendship and trade." A sound like laughter rippled through the assembly, but it didn't sound friendly. The representative from the Catherian collective stood up, his skin changing through nervous colors. "Honored human," he said, using a title usually reserved for royalty. "Surely you do not expect us to believe that your species has forgotten its own glorious conquests." "We're not lying," Jake said, standing up beside Murphy. "Our recorded history goes back thousands of years, and we've never left our solar system until now." The chamber erupted in confused chatter. Aliens spoke to each other in dozens of different languages, all sounding worried and confused. Supreme Chancellor Dexara called for quiet. "If what you say is true," she said carefully, "then perhaps you could explain this." The chamber's central display activated, showing a detailed map of the galaxy. Scattered across it were red markers, each one labeled with human names: New Earth, Armstrong Station, Humanity's Rest, Deathworld Alpha, and hundreds of others. "These are the former human territories," the Chancellor explained. "Over 4,000 star systems, abandoned exactly 4,000 years ago. The ruins are still there, still broadcasting warnings in your language." Dr. Carter stared at the map in amazement. "This is impossible. Those names use language patterns that won't be developed for another century." "The broadcasts," Ambassador Murphy said suddenly. "Can we hear them?" The Chancellor hesitated, then nodded. The chamber filled with a voice speaking clear English. "This is Automated Defense Platform 7 of the Terran Colonial Authority. By order of General Patricia Wells, this system is under human protection. Any vessel approaching within 1 light year without proper authorization will be destroyed. This message will repeat every 30 seconds for the next 10,000 years." The message was clearly recorded by a human, but the technology behind it was far beyond anything Earth had ever produced. "There are thousands of these broadcasts," the Chancellor said. "Your people built an empire that spanned nearly a quarter of the galaxy, then vanished overnight. The question is, why have you returned?" Ambassador Murphy looked at her companions, then back at the assembled representatives. "We haven't returned. We've arrived. I believe what you're seeing is evidence of our future, not our past." The chamber fell completely silent. Every alien eye was staring at the 3 humans. "Are you saying," asked the representative from the Andromedan Collective, "that your species is destined to become the most feared warriors in galactic history?" "I'm saying," Murphy replied, "that we need to figure out how to prevent that from happening." The silence stretched on for a long time. Then aliens began talking to each other again, their voices filled with wonder and fear. "But the records," said a representative from the Altarian Federation, "they show humans conquering entire sectors. They show your warriors fighting entire fleets and winning." Dr. Carter activated her tablet and projected some images into the center of the chamber. "We've been studying those records. Look at them more carefully." The images showed the ancient alien artwork depicting human warriors. But Dr. Carter highlighted details that others had missed. "These humans are wearing technology that doesn't exist yet," she explained. "Their weapons use energy sources we haven't discovered. Their armor incorporates materials we've never seen. But more importantly, look at their faces. She zoomed in on the faces of the human warriors in the artwork. They looked tired, sad, even regretful. These were not the faces of conquerors enjoying their victories. These don't look like humans who chose to be warriors, Dr. Carter continued. They look like humans who were forced to become warriors. A new voice spoke from the back of the chamber. What if the galaxy itself created the monsters it feared? Everyone turned to see who had spoken. It was an old alien that Jake didn't recognize, with wrinkled skin and kind eyes. I am Elder Korth of the Wisdom Keepers, the old alien said as he slowly made his way to the front. I have studied the human records for many years. There is something the Council has not told you. Supreme Chancellor Vexara looked uncomfortable. Elder, perhaps this is not the time. This is exactly the time, Elder Korth replied firmly. He turned to face the humans. The first contact with humans in the ancient records was not peaceful. When humans first appeared in our galaxy, they were met with fear and suspicion. Several species tried to destroy them before they could become a threat. The chamber erupted in angry voices, but Elder Korth continued. The records show that humans only became warriors after they were attacked. They fought back because they had to. The galaxy created the very monsters it was trying to prevent. Ambassador Murphy felt a chill run down her spine. You're saying they became what they were because of how they were treated? I'm saying, Elder Korth replied, that we have a choice. We can repeat the mistakes of the past, or we can choose a different path. The chamber buzzed with discussion. Aliens argued with each other, some supporting the humans, others demanding they be sent away immediately. Finally, Supreme Chancellor Vexara called for order. The question before us is simple, she announced. Do we trust these humans, or do we fear them? Do we welcome them as friends, or do we treat them as the enemies they might become? The choice is yours, Ambassador Murphy said, standing up. Again, but remember this, the future is not written yet. We can choose to be explorers and builders instead of warriors and conquerors, but only if you give us that chance. The chamber fell silent again. Every alien representative was thinking the same thing. Their decision here today might determine the fate of the entire galaxy for thousands of years to come. The vote was scheduled for the next day, giving everyone time to think. As the humans left the chamber, Jake couldn't help but wonder if they had just sealed humanity's fate or saved it. The research station floating above the dead world of Kepler 442b looked like a metal flower blooming in space. It had been built quickly by teams of human and alien workers who had never worked together before. The project was the first real cooperation between humanity and the Fae. Galaxy. Dr. Lisa Carter walked through the corridors alongside Dr. Vex High, a scientist from the Zephyrian Empire who looked like a giant praying mantis. Despite their very different appearances, they had become good friends over the past few weeks. The dating tests are finished, Dr. Vex High said, her translator turning her clicking sounds into English. All the technology we found appears to be from about 6,000 years in your future, but the civilization that built it ended 4,000 years ago. So they lived here for 2,000 years, Dr. Carter said, looking at a piece of clearly human-made technology that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Long enough to build an empire, then they just left. The ruins below told an interesting story. The humans of the future had clearly been master engineers and warriors, but they had also been farmers, artists, teachers, and parents. The cities were built for families, not just soldiers. Look at this, Dr. Vex High said, pointing to paintings on a building wall. These are not pictures of conquest. They show cooperation, trade, people learning from each other. Dr. Carter studied the images. They showed humans working alongside various alien species, building cities together, sharing knowledge, exploring the stars as friends. These don't look like the actions of a conquering army. They look like immigrants who wanted to build new homes. Meanwhile, aboard the UE's Horizon, Captain Jake Morrison was reading combat reports from the ancient records with General Alex Turner, who had been sent from Earth to understand the military side of the situation. The battles described in these records are incredible, General Turner said, shaking his head. Single human ships defeating entire fleets. Humans fighting in the vacuum of space with nothing but basic armor. It's like they were describing superheroes, not normal soldiers. Maybe they were more than normal, Jake replied. Look at this battle footage. The display showed grainy images of what appeared to be human soldiers, but something was clearly different about them. They moved too fast, hit too hard, and survived damage that should have killed them. Enhanced humans, General Turner observed. Genetic changes, machine parts, maybe both. They weren't just warriors. They were living weapons. But here's what I don't understand, Jake said. Every single battle record shows humans winning, but also shows them trying to save lives on both sides. They were fighting to stop their enemies, not to kill them all. The two men were interrupted by a call from the research station. Dr. Carter's excited voice filled the bridge. Captain, we found something amazing. You need to get down here right away. An hour later, Jake stood in what had once been the central library of New San Francisco. The building was mostly perfect, protected by some kind of energy field that was still working after 4,000 years. The library is still active, Dr. Carter explained, and it's been waiting for us. She led him to a central control panel that had turned on the moment they entered. The display showed a man in his 50s, wearing a military uniform that looked both futuristic and familiar. If you're watching this, the recorded figure said, then you finally arrived. My name is Admiral Marcus Rodriguez, and I'm the last commander of the Terran Colonial Authority. Jake felt his heart skip a beat. The man's face was tired and weathered, but his eyes held a familiar determination that reminded Jake of his own reflection. We always knew this day would come, Admiral Rodriguez continued. The time researchers figured it out about 50 years ago. We're not your descendants. We're your alternatives. We're the humans from a timeline where first contact went very, very wrong. The meaning hit Jake like a physical blow. Alternate timeline, he whispered. The galaxy you've entered is not the one we left, the Admiral's recording continued. Our timeline has been erased and replaced by yours. We moved to a place outside normal time and space, but we knew someday the original timeline would be restored and you would find our ruins. Dr. Carter looked at Jake with wide eyes. He's talking about us. We're the original timeline. The question is, Admiral Rodriguez said, will you make the same mistakes we did? Will you let fear and anger turn you into the very monsters the galaxy believes you to be? Or will you find a better way? The recording paused, and words appeared on the screen. Access granted to historical files. Learn from our mistakes. Choose a better path. Jake activated the files and began reading. The story they told was heartbreaking. In the alternate timeline, humanity's first contact had gone terribly wrong. The aliens had been afraid and had attacked first. Humans had been forced to fight back to survive. Look at this, Dr. Carter said, reading from another file. The alternate humans didn't want to fight. They tried to make peace dozens of times. But every time they offered friendship, they were met with fear and weapons. The files showed how fear had created more fear. Each battle had made the aliens more afraid of humans, which had made them attack more desperately, which had forced humans to fight back harder. It was a cycle that fed on itself until both sides forgot how it had started. They became warriors because they had no choice, Jake said quietly. The galaxy was so afraid of them becoming monsters that they made them into monsters. But they found a way to break the cycle, Dr. Carter added, reading further. When they developed time travel, they chose to leave. They erased their own timeline and gave us a chance to start over. Jake looked at the recording of Admiral Rodriguez, frozen on the screen. They sacrificed everything to give us this opportunity. A new file opened, showing detailed plans and technologies that the alternate humans had developed. Weapons that could destroy planets, shields that could protect entire star systems, ships that could travel faster than light itself. They're giving us all their knowledge, Dr. Carter said in amazement. Everything they learned, everything they built, but they're also giving us a choice about how to use it. Jake read the final message from Admiral Rodriguez. We became the greatest warriors in galactic history because we had to. You have the chance to become something better. You can be the greatest peacemakers instead. The choice is yours. The research station buzzed with activity as teams of humans and aliens worked together to understand the technology and history they had discovered. For the first time since first contact, the two sides were working as partners instead of enemies. Captain, Dr. Vexhai said, approaching Jake with a datapad, we found something else. The alternate humans left detailed maps showing every possible future they calculated. Every choice that could lead to peace or war. Jake looked at the complex charts and graphs. What do they show? In every timeline where the galaxy welcomes humanity with friendship instead of fear, the outcome is the same. Humanity becomes not the galaxy's greatest enemy, but its greatest ally. And in the timelines where we're feared and attacked, Dr. Vexhai's antenna drooped sadly. You become exactly what they fear most, Jake nodded slowly. The choice was clear, but it wasn't his alone to make. Tomorrow, the Galactic Council would vote on whether to accept humanity as friends or reject them as threats. The future of both humanity and the galaxy hung in the balance. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any in its 10,000-year history. For the first time ever, the massive chamber was completely full. Representatives from every known species in the galaxy had come to witness this moment. The humans sat in the center, no longer alone, but surrounded by hundreds of alien faces showing every emotion from curiosity to fear to hope. Ambassador Helen Murphy stood at the central speaking platform with Captain Jake Morrison and Dr. Lisa Carter beside her. Behind them, a huge display showed the research that had consumed the past 3 months of their lives. Fellow beings, Murphy began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. We now understand the truth about the human legends. Humans you feared were not our ancestors. They were our alternatives. They came from a timeline where first contact led to war instead of peace. The display showed a branching diagram that looked like a tree with 2 main paths. In one branch, humanity emerged into a hostile galaxy and was forced to become the warriors described in the ancient stories. In the other branch, their branch, humanity had met the Catherians and been welcomed into the galactic community. The humans of that alternate timeline were not conquerors, Dr. Carter explained, stepping forward. They were refugees. When their timeline was erased and replaced by ours, they chose to leave rather than fight. They left behind only their ruins and a warning for us. Supreme Chancellor Thexara leaned forward in her tree-like chair. But the records clearly show them as unstoppable warriors. How do we know your timeline will not produce the same result? Captain, Morrison stepped forward. Because we are making different choices. In their timeline, the galaxy met humanity with fear and suspicion. Species tried to destroy us before we could become a threat. That fear created the very monsters they were trying to prevent. And in our timeline? Asked the representative. From the vegan consortium, his crystal body reflecting the chamber's lights. In our timeline, Ambassador Murphy said, You have the chance to welcome us as friends instead of fearing us as enemies. The future is not written yet. We can choose to be explorers and builders instead of warriors and conquerors. The chamber buzzed with hundreds of conversations in dozens of languages. Representative Veltar of the Catherian Collective stood up, his skin cycling through deep blue colors that Dr. Carter had learned meant serious thinking. The alternate humans left detailed records of their technology, he said. If we choose to trust you, if we choose to welcome you, what promise do we have that you will not eventually use that knowledge to rule over us? It was Ambassador Murphy who answered. The same promise we have, that you will not use your advanced technology to rule over us. The only promise that matters in any friendship. Our word and our actions. She gestured to the display, which now showed images of the joint research station where human and alien scientists worked side by side. For 3 months, we have had access to weapons technology that could destroy entire star systems. We have chosen to use it to build research stations and exploration ships. We have shared every discovery with all of you. But humans are naturally aggressive, protested the representative from the Andromedan Collective, a being that looked like a floating jellyfish. Your own history shows thousands of years of warfare among your own kind. Yes, Captain Morrison replied honestly. We have fought wars. We have made terrible mistakes. But we have also learned from them. We have learned that our greatest strength is not our ability to fight. It is our ability to adapt, to change, to choose a better path when we see one. Dr. Carter activated a new section of the display. The alternate timeline humans left us more than just a warning. They left us a gift. They calculated every possible future they could imagine, every choice that could lead to peace or war. And they found something wonderful. The display showed a complex web of numbers and probability charts. In every timeline where the galaxy welcomes humanity with open arms, where we are treated as equals instead of threats, the outcome is the same. Humanity becomes not the galaxy's greatest enemy, but its greatest protector. And in the timelines where we are feared and attacked, asked Supreme Chancellor Nix Ara quietly, we become exactly what you fear, Ambassador Murphy said, her voice heavy with the weight of that knowledge. The choice is not ours alone. It belongs to all of us. The chamber fell completely silent. Representatives looked at each other, then back at the humans. Everyone understood that the decision they made today would echo through history for thousands of years. Elder Korth of the Wisdom Keepers stood up slowly, his ancient voice carrying across the chamber. I have lived for 800 years. I have seen wars that destroyed entire civilizations. I have seen fear create the very disasters it sought to prevent. Today, we have the chance to choose hope instead of fear. Finally, Representative Veltar stood again. The Catherian Collective has made its decision. We choose to trust. We choose to welcome humanity as friends and equals in this galaxy. One by one, other representatives stood and spoke similar words. The Vegan Consortium, the Andromedan Collective, the Zephyrian Empire, and dozens of others. Not every species agreed. Some chose to wait and see, to maintain their distance until humans proved themselves. But a clear majority had chosen trust over fear. Supreme Chancellor Dexara called for the formal vote. All in favor of accepting humanity as a member species of the Galactic Council? The chamber erupted in a symphony of alien voices, all saying the same thing in their own languages. Yes. The motion passes, the Chancellor announced. Welcome to the galactic community, humanity. As the chamber erupted in celebration, Captain Morrison found himself thinking about the alternate timeline humans who had sacrificed everything to give them this chance. They had chosen to fade into nothing rather than fight, trusting that somehow their sacrifice would lead to a better future. Ambassador Murphy joined him at the speaking platform. Do you think we will live up to their sacrifice? Captain Morrison looked out at the sea of alien faces, many of whom were now approaching the human delegation with expressions of welcome and curiosity rather than fear. I think, he said, we are going to find out together. 6 months later, the first human students graduated from the Galactic Academy. The first human-designed research ship, built together with Getherian engineers, launched on a mission to explore unknown regions of the galaxy. The first human restaurant opened on a trade station, serving food that mixed Earth recipes with alien ingredients in ways that surprised everyone. And somewhere in the ruins of New San Francisco, the computers left by the alternate timeline humans recorded one final message: mission accomplished. The timeline is secure. Humanity has chosen wisely. The galaxy's most feared warriors had been replaced by its newest friends. The future was bright with endless possibilities, and the choice to build rather than destroy had made all the difference. The stars no longer seemed cold and distant to humanity. They were home.